All right, so BAM Book Week is from October 5th to the 11th. Today is the 20th. I have read 4 BAM's books. I'm a little bit slow on this one, but in my defense, I was also waiting for a library read to come in. Basically, I just scrolled on the internet, got a couple of lists from Canada and states, and just seen which books have either been banned from school, public libraries, have been challenged, and it was pretty easy to get a whole host of books possible that I can read. I still regret that I didn't get to read The Handmaid's Tale, but I end up choosing Lolita, mostly because I wanted to get my own opinion for this. My Dark Vanessa is one of my favorite books, and this was a book that was highly referenced in that story. I know the basic concept, the idea of focusing the protagonist. I know protagonist doesn't mean good guy, but it still feels weird to say that about a Yeah, no other word I can use to say it. He's a pedophile. I don't really care about the YouTube algorithm right now and censoring it. Yes, to focus on him and as he finds a child and kidnaps her and assaults. So I'm like, okay, I realize the point of this being he is a monster and this is a horror kind of book, not a romance, but I still wanted to read it for myself to get the idea, because people defend this book and people insult this book, and I'm like, okay, let me see what the truth is, let me read this book. I also picked up All Boys Aren't Blue. This is a memoir that I had seen floating around in the past. It was vaguely on my radar, so my library had a copy available. I picked it up. And then I also have Mouse, which is a story focusing on a Holocaust survivor. His son was a cartoon artist and drew this comic to tell his father's story. Definitely enjoyed the focus, especially with how the son couldn't always understand what his father had went through, how that impacted his childhood, and then of course the story that his father had told him, surviving one of the most brutal things anyone can go through. And the last one has been one that has been on my list forever, and that is Beloved. This one I really wish it lived up to the hype in my head. I thought I was going to get this intense ghost story, this haunting, beautiful narrative as we focus on a woman who has survived slavery, and that's basically all I knew about the book going into it. The writing just kept me at a distance. So, Past Jessica is going to talk about the books as she reads them. Lolita, mostly because I wanted to get my own opinion for this, and my opinion is this is boring as hell. Oh my god. You would think that something controversial... Okay, child is assaulted, that's definitely controversial as hell, especially when this book was written. But you'd think that something hugely dramatic that you could pinpoint to and say this moment is too much, something would happen in this book. This was just boring from start to finish. I take offense to any review I seen that said you are endeared to the main character. The beautiful writing and his wit and charm and intelligence or humor or something led you to be on his side, even knowing what he was, and that was the point of the book, to not be led astray by charismatic people kind of thing. This man is introduced as a full-on predator from page 1. After he's done monologuing about wanting to, or only being attracted to children aged like 9 to 14 or something like that, he nearly runs over a dog. 3 other times he talks about how much he dislikes dogs or dogs disliking him, and then every other page is just him being attracted to a child. And I'm just like, in what world is anyone distracted by fine writing to forget what kind of a monster predator he is? How is anyone on this man's side for a second? He's not charming, he's not witty, because the fact that he's a predator overrides everything, and quite honestly, he's not that charming. He's not that intelligent. If anything, he's pretentious, narcissistic, and has an ego the size of anything. I do not like this man for every reason. I don't know what... It is boring. It is just boring. The first couple chapters, or third of the book, we'll say, is genuinely interesting. Everything is being filtered from his perspective, so we know we have an unreliable narrator. Like, he thinks that this child is seducing him. Every interaction is a justification for how he feels. He's trying to convince himself that what he feels is natural and that he's a good person and yada, yada, yada. So it would be really interesting if we continue to focus on that unreliable narrator perspective, because the mother makes a comment about how she was married young to someone 20 years her senior. So, like, was she groomed? Probably. How did that impact her daughter? Because they have a really strenuous relationship. She calls her a bitch and a slut, and I think she's not nice to her daughter, but again, we're getting it from his point of view, and he's not interpreting things correctly. So what is their dynamic actually like? She lost a child, her son, and she grieves him. So why is that? Is it because it was a boy? Because the last child can never live, it can only ever be perfect? Or was there something about having a daughter first, knowing the dangers that I'll face because it's what she faced? Let's go into more of that. How about we get little cracks in his perspective more frequently and dive into that kind of idea? And just have him, like, ignore it kind of thing because it's not what he wants to focus on. But no, after she just, spoilers for a book that's a zillion years old, after she gets hit by a car, he then, as the stepfather, kidnaps the child and goes off and assaults her the first chance he gets. Though from his point of view, it is a love story and she seduced him. And thankfully, nothing is described in exploitative language. It's not gratuitous. It's all metaphors and poetry and a love story that he feels it is. And then we get the cracks in his perspective as he makes a throwaway comment. She's crying herself to sleep at night. And to know what she truly feels, but we lose who she is, and it's only who he views her as. He views this child as Lolita when her name is Dolores. He's taken away her identity to fit more into his delusional fantasy. That's interesting. But then the rest of the book is just a meandering road trip across America with some interactions with other people, and it would have been really cool if it was like him almost getting caught, but giving an explanation and supposedly being charming enough to trick people into thinking, oh, he's just a good father or something like that. Like, why didn't we get more of him excusing his actions to other people? So you could almost be like, okay, this is what you'd be on the lookout for. This is the excuses that predators use. Don't fall for this. Continue to ask questions. Instead, no, it's just like, your daughter crosses her legs a little weird. We should have something about the school counselor for that. Have you thought about letting her go to dance? You seem like being an overprotective parent. Pulls her out of school, moves on. It's boring. It's boring. It's boring. That's all I got at this book. And it did not have, like, the depth of the psychology that I would expect to be explored for the subject matter that it was tackling. Overall, did not like this book for many, many reasons. But the main one is just, it was boring. Vladimir Nabokov's novel Lolita was banned and challenged in several countries due to its controversial themes of pedophilia, which was considered obscene. No duh. The book's plot, language, and subject matter sparked widely spread outrage and censorship in the mid-20th century, though it was eventually recognized for its literary merit. People like the pretty writing. Primary reasons for the ban: obscene content. Critics condemn the novel for its handling of pedophilia and the sexualization of a minor. The narrative is told from the perspective of Humbert, a middle-aged literary professor who is obsessed with a 12-year-old child, Dolores Hayes' Lolita, leading many to see the book as glorifying child sexual abuse. No, he was a terrible character. Controversial publications. In the 1950s, American publishers rejected Lolita out of fear that its contents could lead to legal action, including fines or... Oh, sorry, I thought I just said that could lead to the legalization of this to minors. No, could lead to legal actions, including fines or jail time for the act of publishing it. It was eventually published in 1955 by Olympia Press in France, a firm known for publishing pornographic and risque material, further fueling the perception that the book is indecent. I will say nothing indecent is depicted graphically on page. Accusations of pornography. There's no pictures in it. Upon its initial publication, some influential critics publicly labeled the novel as sheer unrestrained pornography, and its the filthiest book I have ever read. You haven't read many filthy books. The 1950s could not handle today's fan fiction. This created a moral panic. Everything leads to moral panic that led to official government bans and seizures of the book. So it was banned in the United Kingdoms, France, Canada, Argentina, New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. While Lolita was never officially banned at the national level in the United States, some local jurisdictions and libraries prohibited it. Despite the initial bans, the book gradually gained a reputation as a work of high art rather than simple pornography. By 1958, an American publisher issued the novel, and it quickly became a bestseller, gaining significant critical acclaim despite some negative reviews. Over time, literary critics campaigned the novel for its complex exploration of obsession. True, very true. Its unreliable narrator, the best element of the book. I just wish it was used more. And it's used throughout the entire book. Obviously, I would like to see cracks in the unreliable narrator to contrast his perspective and how he's viewing the world against reality, rather than staying the majority, 99.9% of the time, just in his unreliable narrator. And Nabokov's brilliant prose. The writing's pretty. The literary world's reevaluation of Lolita highlights the long-standing debate over obscenity, censorship, and the purpose of art. All right, so that's what AI says about it. All right, so I finished All Boys Aren't Blue today at work. Got it from my library. The audiobook, extremely easy, quick listen to, absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed the memoir element of this. This is a YA memoir following the author from childhood into adulthood as they come to accept their both sexuality, their identity as a Black individual, as well as masculinity and femininity and where they fall on that, how you can be both, how once, like, they gave an example as, like, they like double dutch, doing, like, the jump rope as childhood, and that was seen as more feminine, but just because they really enjoy doing that doesn't mean they weren't also good and enjoy football and stuff like that. You can be, liking one thing doesn't make you less masculine because you also enjoy it, kind of thing. And it was really good. It was definitely a story of acceptance and pure love in the family, and I enjoyed that because the few memoirs that I have read or stories that deal with, like, LGBTQIA individuals, a lot of the times it's trauma and grief and pain, which is a very important story to tell, but to have one that is just pure joy and acceptance. They talk about their trans cousin and how the family is just like, what you gonna change your name for? That's a dumb name. You were born this. You gotta stay this. And they misgender them and they just don't understand. And then someone just comes up within the family. It's just like, yeah, but they want to go by this now. What's the big deal? We call them this. It's like, all right, I guess we call them this now. And it's just immediate acceptance, even if there is confusion. And no one ever judged the author for their identity, for their sexuality, for their interest, even when it's made them slightly uncomfortable. Like, they wanted to wear cowboy boots and everyone else was wearing whatever sneakers were popular at the time. They're trying to convince them to wear these sneakers, and the author is just like, no, I really want these cowboy boots. So the family's just like, I guess you're wearing cowboy boots, and they never blamed them for it. They never really bullied them. They were always there to stand up for them when other people was calling them names, and it was just love within the family, and I love that. But then you go into the manifesto, it's like, not everyone has this, and it's speaking at a broader, like, sense of society, and I don't think I like manifestos. I would have just preferred we keep it personal. This is my story, and you don't need to commentate. You can, obviously. This is their story. I have no say in this whatsoever. I didn't even rate this on Goodreads because I got no say, and memoirs are very personal. But to speak on society is not something I enjoy reading. It feels too preachy. It feels like you're trying to center yourself in this broader topic, and narcissistic is the wrong way to phrase it. Yeah, but it does. It feels like you're just trying to center yourself in this broader situation. That's not what I enjoy reading. There was also an issue that I had concerning said trans cousin earlier. I enjoyed their topic, and I know why they were addressed the way they were. The author even mentions, like, listen, I'm going to write this as I would back in the day. This is how we dealt with it. This is how we said it, even though it's probably wrong now, and continue to misgender them and use their dead name instead of just saying, she did this. I think the chosen name was Hope. And I'm just like, okay, can we keep that? Why are we, just because we're in the past doesn't mean we use he, him pronouns when in the present it's she, her. And my knowledge of trans individuals is to always use the preferred pronouns, even if we're referring back to a time before transitioning. But not my family. I don't know. Overall, really good book, really good message. I didn't think I would enjoy a YA memoir, and I definitely did. Yeah, manifesto. That's the part that I think got me. But overall, very happy I read this. I guess it was banned because there were topics of sexual assault, and this, even though this was a very affirmative and joyous relationship and affirmation acceptance within the family, there was still trauma. There was still assaults. It was still goes into like one's first sexual experience in a not quite fade to black, but not quite closed door, but not overly gratuitous, but it was definitely described more than I would think a young YA would. So, upper YA, so maybe that's why it was probably banned in some locations or challenged, removed from libraries. I was not expecting a full-on sexual scene, which we did get. All Boys Aren't Blue has been banned and challenged for its LGBTQIA+ content, precious jerks, and sexually explicit content. There was some sexually explicit content, while including details, descriptions of sexual acts, violence, and substance use. All true, but teenagers do that things, and having the language to understand someone's experience is a good thing to be exposed to. I felt this handled it very responsibly, and then it would allow them to speak and gain more information on their own. Critics have labeled the book as sexually explicit. There was like 2 chapters at the end of 2 chapters, and have targeted it for its inclusion of Black and queer experiences. Well, that's just outright rude. With challenges often stemming from a combination of these factors. Sexually content, the book includes detailed accounts of both traumatic molestation and consensual sexual experiences. True, but reason that's got to be banned, which have drawn significant criticism and accusations of being criminally sexual. Don't even know what that means. LGBTQIA themes. Is that not allowed? As a young adult memoir about growing up Black and queer, the book has been challenged for its LGBTQIA content, which some have sought to remove from school libraries because they're jerks. Profanity and graphic depictions. Yeah, yet we read To Kill a Mockingbird. The memoir contains profanity and graphic depictions of violence and substance use, which are additional reasons cited for bans and challenges. No one's saying read it to kindergartners. Broader context, the challenge against All Boys Aren't Blue are part of a larger trend of books by and about people of color and LGBTQIA individuals being targeted in school districts across the United States. Call me shocked. But now I'm going to go into these books that I've had forever of Mouse, and we're going to see how this goes. I wonder why this would have been banned from libraries, or removed from school libraries, which is the first one. I have owned this book for years, like high school it was gifted to me, and I've always been I know me. I'm too emotional. This is going to hurt my heart. I know it. I'm 88 pages into the first set, and I'm already breaking. It's not full concentration camp focus yet, but like they were talking about, anyone 70 years and older have to go to this new place. They'll be better equipped to take care of the elderly, and the family didn't trust it, so they hid them with a fake wall in like a shed in the back. And eventually the officers came, and it's just like they took the fathers, like, give us the grandparents because they're registered here and you just told us they up and left and that we don't believe you. So they took the father. If you don't give us the grandparents, we're going to take the wife and children as well, and you'll all go in their place. So eventually they do give over the grandparents, and a little while later they learn about Auschwitz and the stories coming back, and no one believed them at first. But then more stories kept coming saying the same thing, and they describe it as they went right to Auschwitz to the gas, and previously I feel like they called it the ovens, like we didn't know about the ovens yet, and I'm heartbroken already. they're just drawn as mice, and like they're talking about people selling things without coupons, and they're being hung in the streets for it, and their bodies left there for days. I am not emotionally prepared to read this. It's been 5 pages. 25 or 30,000 people end up going to this stadium. They are told they have to go to get their passports stamped. Jewish individuals. And they are too afraid to either stay home, and they're too afraid to go, but they end up going. And you either go to the right or you go to the left. Old people, families with lots of kids, and people without working cards are all going to the left. So clearly, not a good thing. The protagonist of our story, the one telling it, the father, he ends up going to the right because he's able to work in certain areas. And now he's asking about his father, who also end up going to the right, and he would have been fine. But his daughter, with 4 children, deemed to have too many children, was sent to the right. So he snuck to the bad side to be with his daughter. And those on the bad side never came anymore home. That's the translation of this, I guess. But I'm not emotionally prepared to read this. Those with a stamp were let to go home, but there were very few Jews now left in the town whose name I can't pronounce. Sosnowiec. 1 from 3 they kept at the stadium, maybe 10,000 people, and with them my father. So this story covers their time before the concentration camps, in hiding. People hiding them in dumpsters, hidden rooms, cellars, people screaming through their windows when they see them, having to sneak out at night. And even the people who were helping them, a lot of them only did it for money as well. And the father justifies it, saying they were risking their lives, they wouldn't do that for free. And the next book is going to be at Auschwitz. There's also conversations between the father and son, and his feelings about his father, how he's acting. He's very cheap. He's hoarding things, and he's wondering if it was because of the time that he was in the camps that affected his personality. His second wife is saying, I went through the camps too. All our friends were in the camps, and none of us act like this. He's just a stingy old man. I can't believe I'm still married to him. There's a lot of marriage problems. There's a lot of emotional stuff, and he's mourning the death of his first wife. They went to the camps together. She did make it out, but she commits suicide later on. And it's the son telling the story to make this comic book. And I realize that I'm giving a lot of details, but I mean, you get most of it from the experience of actually reading this. I'm hurting. Next book. I'm crying over shoes, I swear. Camps. Not happy. Terrible time. I'm not going to be checking in very frequently from here on out. They got me they took our things, our clothes, and our hair, because I remember a documentary and it's showing just a room full of hair. Alright, the son is speaking to a therapist who also survived Auschwitz. They're talking about his father who passed. Mouse is becoming successful, and they're going on with that. And he says, and now that you've become successful, you feel bad about proving your father wrong. And the son says, no matter what I accomplish, it doesn't seem like much compared to surviving Auschwitz. Therapist says, but you weren't in Auschwitz. You're in Rego Park. Maybe your father needed to show that he was always right, that he could always survive because he felt guilty about surviving. Maybe. And he took his guilt out on you, when it was safe, on the real survivor. Tell me, do you feel any guilt about surviving the camps? No, just sadness. So do you admire your father for surviving? Well, sure. I know there was a lot of luck involved, but he was amazingly present-minded and resourceful. Then you think it is admirable to survive. Does that mean it's not admirable to not survive? Whoosh! I think I see what you mean. It's as if life equals winning and death equals losing. Yes, life always takes the side of life, and somehow the victims are blamed. But it wasn't the best people who survived, nor did the best ones die. It was random. Sigh, I'm not talking about your book now, but look at how many books have already been written about the Holocaust. What's the point? People haven't changed. Maybe they need a newer, bigger Holocaust. That's kind of terrifying in today's day and age book. I don't want to read that. Anyways, the victims who die can never tell their side of the story, so maybe it's better not to have any more stories. Alright, my biggest issue right now is the father is reliving the most brutal thing basically anyone could ever go through, and the son is so frustrated with him every time the father's just like, oh, can you help me come and fix this? Or can you help me put up the storm shutters? And he's just like, I really wanted to just hear more of your story. And he doesn't want to help his father. I get his father is frustrating. He just revealed himself to be a complete racist, thinking that black people steal, and he was upset that his son gave a ride to a hitchhiker. I'm not excusing anything, but he lived a pretty hard life. Everyone keeps saying, like, everyone around here and in their family and friend circle lived the exact same life, but I'm upset. He's just chilling on the bed. So I finished this in one sitting because how could I stop reading? I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot of it's a decent amount of words and a lot of detail, and on the pages, in the pictures themselves, it's just a lot. Emotionally, it's a lot. We are telling a biographical and autobiographical story of a survivor of the Holocaust told by his son after his passing, through the conversations that they had. And we start with his life, very comfortable, married into a very wealthy family, lived in luxury, in comfort, and then slowly history changed. And they had to sell their belongings, they bribed people, they survived longer than most because of the influence that they had. But to see their life crumble, and that they never really cared about giving up their things. They just want to stay together as a family and then be torn apart from each other. And the entire book, he's trying to get back, not the entire book, for a while, he's just trying to get back to his wife. And I swear this is a love story more than anything else, because no matter what he did, he was always thinking about his wife and getting back to her. At one point in time, like, a train goes off without him, and he's like, it's 3 weeks to get to, where was the two? I couldn't find more of my friends and my luggage. I had only my thin shirt and my water. Shavik went back to Hanover to find me again, but I went only straight to Poland. It took me 3 or 4 weeks. He was not stopping. He was going for his wife. I love this, and it hurt, and this was a very hard read. The story doesn't shy away from stereotypes and the root cause of them, the trauma that was inflicted upon his father, how that affected him compared to others, how he survived, the perseverance, the tragedy. I would have broken, I know that. The majority of people would have broken, but somehow him and the people around him still pushed through and found a way to survive. And this story, the fact that anyone would try to ban this, to stifle the words and story, in addition to everything that they had went through, to hide the truth from anybody, is honestly insulting and hurtful. So there's that. I can't talk about this book, apparently. Yeah, definitely read it. Definitely worth the read. Masterful is all I can say. It is told in a very broken English, so be aware of that. That being said, he said in the story that he learned English, so I'm a little confused on why it's told in a broken English, but that doesn't matter. It's something that grows on you very quickly, and did I mention I love this? I love this. Mouse was banned primarily in the McMinnville County School District in Tennessee due to concerns over what the school board called rough, objectionable language depictions of nudity. There was like one there was a little bit of nudity scenes. Weird drawn animation. No, not worth noting. And it's violent. It's about the Holocaust. And it's violent, adult-orientated subject matter. Yeah, so God forbid the subject matter be banned from schools where it could be educated and covered responsibly, including suicide. Yeah, a chapter page. The board decided the book was not age appropriate for the 8th grade curriculum. How old are you in 8th grade? Typically 13 to 14-year-olds. They're teenagers, they're fine. Citing the language and illustrations. So, language, board members cited the use of profanity and inappropriate for an 8th grader. Nudity, an illustration of a naked woman, was a specific point of objection. Yeah, bathtub scene, sure. Violence and suicide, well, that's just the nudity in the same conversation. The book's realistic and graphic depiction of the Holocaust, including violence and the author's mother's suicide, was all cited as too mature for the students. Yeah, God forbid you teach them anything. Age appropriateness, the overall reason given was that the book was too adult oriented for the age group. Right. Gotcha. All right, I'm about halfway through Beloved, and I feel bad for not liking it. I appreciate the message and the story and everything it's trying to do, and I can appreciate that the writing is beautiful, complex, layered emotions. But when it comes to reading, what I want number one focus priority is just a story with a narrative that's moving forward, something driving the plot, and the plot being the key element here. I like a simple plot. I like simple writing. I like a simple narrative. I don't place value in poetic, lyrical, emotional writing. And it makes me sound like a dumb the writing itself, I appreciate that there is an art to writing. I appreciate the skill of it. I don't take entertainment in it. I'm here for the story, for the character arcs, for the development of their psychology, I like the themes, which is definitely here. I feel that people would be lost in the atmosphere and the beautiful writing of this, and we appreciate that. But it's not what I value. It's not what I value in storytelling. Or when I read a story, when I pick up a story to read. I'm here for the narrative, for the plot, and how that plot develops themes and characters and arcs. Alright, so I finished Beloved, and by the end I definitely enjoyed it a lot more. I was a little iffy on my investment in the story. Mostly, again, I don't like omniscient third-person narrators. I don't like when the present-day storyline isn't the focus. We're waiting for reveals that the characters already know happened because we're waiting to learn what happened in the past rather than the focus being on the present. I did like what was happening in the present, the idea of this unknown woman named Beloved who showed up, and whether or not she is the daughter who would have lived had events not happened, and this is her at what she would look like at present day. Is she the representation of all the pain and memories that those who died in slavery or suffered through slavery and the journey here would have created? Or is she just a random woman who ran away from slavery? I liked her element of it in the present day, but the main focus was on the events of Sweet Home, the plantation house that they were at, how she got away, her journey there, what happened to her daughter, and it's like the characters in the present day already know all this happened, so I feel like I'm playing catch-up, so I always feel like I'm being kept at a distance from the characters, and then the fact that we're using a third-person narrator made me feel even more distant from the story. But once we got into the events of present day and what is happening and learning what happened, yeah, much more invested. Definitely an important book, definitely enjoyed the message. The writing is not my preferred style, I maintain. 3-star, definitely still enjoyed, important message, just not a read that I enjoyed reading. Beloved has been banned primarily because of its graphic and disturbing content. It covers slavery. Yeah. Doesn't mean it should be banned. You gotta learn about it, which includes violence and sexual acts. Sure, and its unflinching portrayal of the horrors of slavery. God forbid you depict it in the way it should be. Many parents and educators have challenged the book, deeming it inappropriate for younger readers due to its mature themes. Kids are maturing and need to understand mature topics, and intense psychological distress. These challenges are also connected to a broader context of resistance against teaching topics related to systemic racism. Call me shocked. Mature and disturbing content. The novel depicts violence and sexual scenes, which some may find too explicit for high school students. Being described as milk was a disturbing scene. That's going to kind of stick with me. That's going to haunt me a little bit, but still not a reason to ban it. Horrors of slavery. I mean, you learn about it. Critics argue the book's frank and unflinching depiction of slavery, brutality, and its lasting trauma is emotionally distressing and inappropriate for many audiences. So just ignore it. That's your reasoning. That's your plan. Challenging themes. God forbid a school teach about challenging themes. The books focus on the psychological and physical scars of slavery, including violence and dehumanization. Dehumanization was a huge theme in that book and should be studied in schools. It's often cited as a reason for its challenges. Broader censorship concerns. The controversy over Beloved has been linked to larger debates about censorship and teaching of critical race theory. God damn it. Which some opponents view books that address race inequality as a threat to impressionable young minds. But those are my banned books that I read this month. Yeah, Mouse was definitely the one that I took the most enjoyment of, that hit me the most emotionally. I still am trying not to cry with the events that happened in it. I'll probably have to get some more recommendations from these kinds of lists. But that's all I got. I will talk to you later. Bye. On a side note, Instagram also showed me this image, and it's like, oh, did you know Assassination Classroom was banned from certain schools? Assassination Classroom is therapy. It makes you a better person. It teaches you to work hard, to never be underestimated, that people are good and need care, and has the best teacher in the world. Assassination Classroom should be taught in schools, by God.